From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting, originating from the County Administrative Center located at 1115 Truxtun Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Kern County's vision is to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people we serve. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Board to reconvene. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Gleason.
Here.
Supervisor Scribner.
Here.
Supervisor Maggard.
Here.
Supervisor Couch.
Here.
Supervisor Perez.
All right, thank you very much. Welcome to the Tuesday, June 13th, 2017 meeting of the Kern County Board of Supervisors. We're going to start today's meeting with a salute to our flag. That's going to be led by Michael Turnipseed, who heads up Kern Tax. And if you could please remain standing for a moment of prayer, silence, or meditation. Mr. Turnipseed, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Thank you, Mr. Turnipseed. All right, next we're going to consider our consent agenda. If you'd like to follow along with our agendas today, they are available at the two tables near the doors. All items listed with a CA above the item are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion. If a member of the audience wishes to comment or ask questions regarding an item or items on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken on the consent agenda. A member of the board may remove any item from the consent agenda, and it will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. So at this time, I will read the consent agenda items starting on page 2. Items 2 and 3, as well as 6 and 7 are on consent. On page 3, items 8 and 9, as well as 11 through 15 are on consent. On page 4, items 16 through 24 are on consent. On page 5, items 25 through 30 are on consent. On page 6, items 32 through 37 are on consent. On page 7, all items 38 through 43 are on consent. However, item 42 is being withdrawn by the department and will not be considered. And finally, on page 8, item 44 is on consent. Are there any members of the audience that would like to make comment on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, I'll return to the board and ask if any board members would like to remove an item, or I would request a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion on consent.
You have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you. And now we will return to page 2 of our agenda. Item number 1 under resolutions and proclamations. Item number 1 is to proclaim June 2017 as Elder Abuse Awareness Month in Kern County, and Supervisor Couch will make this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Motion on the proclamation.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. Kind of a serious one today. Elder abuse is really an epidemic in our community, and unfortunately, it's getting worse. So this effort, this proclamation today is just to raise awareness, and I'm going to read that into the record. I'm going to turn it over to Lito. They have an event coming up. There's multiple agencies involved in it, and let Lito talk about that. This proclamation reads, the Board of Supervisors, County of Kern, State of California, has officially proclaimed June 2017 as Elder Abuse Awareness Month in Kern County, and this recognition has been entered in the official board minutes signed by our Honorable Chair, Zach Scribner. It's dated today, June 13th, 2007. And I'd like to present this to Lito Murillo and let him say a few words about the upcoming event. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Couch.
Thank you, Supervisor Couch. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for this proclamation. Elder abuse is a growing problem in our community and impacts everyone, everyone that you can possibly think of, really. Unfortunately, the number of referrals that we receive continue to grow each year, and it's just going to grow as more and more seniors continue to age. There's various forms of elder abuse. There's physical, sexual abuse, mental, emotional abuse, neglect that includes self-neglect, and financial abuse. Typically, in most referrals that we get for adult protective services, there's always an element of financial abuse, particularly as it relates to scams perpetrated on a senior. This proclamation kicks off our efforts to create awareness on this issue. We host an event that coincides with the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, which is recognized worldwide on June 15th. There's also a statewide effort to create awareness on this topic, which we're a part of. As part of this campaign, we partnered with the District Attorney's Office to promote, market, and spread the word on the topic of elder abuse. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the many social workers that you have working at Aging Adult Services for their tireless work in safeguarding and protecting our seniors. Now I'd like to introduce Jeremy Oliver, who is the Program Director over Adult Protective Services, to talk about our event.
Thank you to our board for the proclamation in support of elder abuse awareness this month. We've all been impacted by scams. I'm not aware of anyone who hasn't received calls from someone reporting to be from the IRS saying that you owe taxes, or gotten an email from someone claiming to be fleeing from a foreign country and with billions of dollars, and if they could just use your bank account, they'll leave you with plenty of money. Sadly, these scammers are aware of that as we age, we may become more susceptible to the various forms of financial abuse. They target three different areas typically. Lack of knowledge, so those that are unaware, like with the example of the IRS scam, that the IRS will never contact you by phone. They'll instead send you letters and give you options in terms of payment, and they won't include payment options such as debit cards, prepaid debit cards, or iTunes cards. Loneliness. So a lot of our seniors are living in social isolation. They don't have good supports. They don't rely on other people to maintain ongoing contact. And a lot of our scammers will target the fact that they are lonely and become their friends, and through that friendship abuse them by taking finances from them. Our last option, or lastly, due to illness or mental decline. So as we age, we tend to have issues related to physical illnesses, and some of those physical illnesses cause us to take medications that may cause us to be more susceptible to frauds and scams. Additionally, we may also have dementia or onset of neurocognitive declines. All three areas can be improved by keeping and maintaining regular contact with good support systems. Thankfully, in Kern County, we have great support systems to aid us in the fight against elder abuse, such as your board, the Commission on Aging, the District Attorney's Office, Sheriff's Office, Behavioral Health and Recovery Services, Public Health, Veterans Affairs, Long-Term Care Ombudsman, California State University of Bakersfield, California State Licensing Department, Kern Regional Center, and other local law enforcement agencies, to name a few. It is through this collaborative effort that we will continue to protect the seniors and dependent adults in our community. This year's 20th Annual Elder Abuse Conference topic focuses on understanding civil and criminal aspects of elder financial abuse. Our event will be held this Thursday on June 15th in conjunction with World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. And I'm pleased to announce that we are at our maximum capacity for this event this year. Our key speaker is Paul Greenwood. He's a Deputy District Attorney from San Diego County who will focus on a community approach to investigation and prosecution of elder financial abuse cases. We will continue to bring additional information to this board of the ongoing efforts being made in the County of Kern. And again, we thank you for your support in the proclamation of this month.
Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda will be public presentations. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons to address the board on any matter not on this agenda, but under the jurisdiction of the board. Board members may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed. They may ask a question for clarification, make a referral to staff for factual information, or request staff to report back to the board at a later meeting. Are there any members of the audience that would like to make a public presentation? Good morning.
Good morning. Nick Cullen, Director of Kern County Animal Services. Just wanted to give an update. Animal Services had two events this weekend. The Saturday, the spay-neuter vouchers were issued to county residents and city residents. 397 spay-neuter vouchers were issued to county residents. City of Bakersfield staff and volunteers were there and issued over 100 to city residents. And Kern Humane Society was there to assist about 160 folks that were from outside the city and county jurisdiction. Sunday was our Just One Day event. It was an adoption event from 9 a.m. until 8 p.m. Over 70 animals left the shelter on Sunday for their forever homes. Another 10 animals were guaranteed a home by adopters paying it forward. They paid the adoption fees of those other animals. And another 10 families became foster families and took animals out of the shelter. So it was a big weekend, great success. Thank you for all your support and for the community coming out to support us as well.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cullen. I went by on Saturday morning, and there was a great crowd, and people were moving through, and it was great to see such a fantastic turnout. So I'm glad to hear Sunday was such a success. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Bill Walker, Kern Behavioral Health and Recovery Services. So I wasn't going to say this, but since he said that, my wife just has a forever Shih Tzu that she just picked up from the shelter. We've already trained the dog how to ride on the front of a paddleboard. So next Thursday, if you happen to be going by Lake Ming and you look out there and see me or my wife on a paddleboard with a little Shih Tzu in the front of it paddling in the lake, we'll know that that dog came from the shelter. But actually, what I wanted to speak to is that this afternoon I'll be on my way to Sacramento, and there's a couple of items this afternoon on your agenda. On items 19 and 20 is the 10% transfer of the realignment funds from the mental health department. And I just want to say that quite early from the CAO's office, Amanda Ruiz and Elsa Martinez worked with us on how to set up our budget so that this transfer would not be a burden to us. And I just wanted to highlight those two staff from the CAO's office and say thank you for the work they started basically towards the end of 2016 to make sure that those transfers occurred in a way that didn't disrupt our budget, and we were able to submit our budget without a problem because of it. And I just wanted to appreciate the CAO's office for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Any other public presentations? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on to board member announcements or reports. Supervisor Perez.
Thank you, Chairman. Back of the room, next to the agendas, are some beautiful, colorful flyers highlighting that you could win the camping prize of a cooler and $250 cash. Sign up for our blood draw June 28th. Here, it's super easy. You're in and out. We'll take good care of you, and you could win some fun summer cash. So thank you. Please sign up.
Thank you, Supervisor. Okay, seeing no other requests from board members, then we'll move on in our agenda to page 3, item number 10, under Auditor, Controller, County Clerk. This is request for approval of the 2017-18 Internal Audit Plan and Internal Audit Charter. We have our Auditor Controller, Mary Bedard, with us. Good morning, Ms. Bedard. I don't think your mic's on. Try it again.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The item before you today relates to an action your board took on April 25th, approving the change in county policy, section 608.1, relating to audit standards to be followed for audits performed by the Auditor Controller's Office. First, I'd like to give you a little background. Government Code Section 1236 requires auditor controllers to use either GAO standards, commonly referred to as Yellow Book standards, or Institute of Internal Auditors standards, also known as Red Book standards. Kern has always used Yellow Book standards, and that was included in county policy. However, while Yellow Book standards do relate specifically to government, they pertain more to financial statement audits, which we generally do not do, and are designed more for the types of audits outside CPAs would perform. For some time, we have been looking into the Red Book standards to determine if they would be a better fit for the types of audits we do. Red Book standards pertain specifically to internal audits, including internal control and compliance audits, but are not geared specifically to government. We researched the Red Book standards and spoke to other counties regarding the pros and cons of Yellow Book versus Red Book standards. From this, we determined that one of the advantages of the Institute of Internal Auditors Red Book standards is that the Red Book report format seems to be more understandable to the reader and does a better job of reflecting what we actually do in our audits. Under Yellow Book standards, we included in our audit report only items that met the criteria for material weakness or significant deficiency. Often we would identify other items that were termed control deficiencies. We provided this information to the department and the CAO, but it was not included in the audit report itself. Under Red Book standards, these would be included in the audit report and classified as suggested improvements, so the report includes everything we found rather than having some information provided outside of the audit itself. Several months ago, we raised the issue of changing to the Red Book standards with the Audit Advisory Committee and received a very positive response from the committee. Therefore, we moved forward on making this change. Tony Jones, our Audit Division Chief, spent some time with the Audit Division of the San Luis Obispo Auditor Controller's Office to get a first-hand look at how the Red Book standards work in practice. He then moved forward on working through the process to make this transition. I would like to acknowledge all the work Tony did on this, as well as the assistance of the San Luis Obispo Auditor Controller's Office in providing us with information and guidance during the transition. On April 25th, your board adopted the policy change to the use of Red Book standards. Over the next few weeks, you will begin to see some additional audit reports coming before your board, including transition audits and follow-up audits. Transition audits relate to the actions that must be taken when there is a change in a department head. Follow-up audits report on departments' actions in implementing our audit recommendations. We've always performed these activities, but under Yellow Book standards, they were never reported to the board. Red Book standards require that we formally report to the board on these activities. I'm confident that the change to Red Book standards will improve the usefulness of our audit reports to departments, the board, and the public. Red Book standards do require a formal internal audit charter that is approved by both the Auditor Controller and the Board of Supervisors. The standards also require that your board approve our annual audit plan. Both the charter and audit plan have been reviewed by the Audit Advisory Committee and are now being submitted to your board for approval. That concludes my remarks, and we're available for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from members of the board? About members of the audience? Okay, seeing none, the requested action is to approve the request. Supervisor Maggard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was discussed at length at our board's audit committee, subcommittee on which Supervisor Couch and I serve, and we agree with the recommendation, and I would motion that we approve the item.
Second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Thank you. The motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ms. Bedard, thank you to you and your staff, and to Supervisor Maggard and Couch for serving on that committee. Next item on our agenda this morning will be item 31. This is a County Administrative Office legislative matter. AB 1250, contracts for personal services. And we'll ask Ryan Alsop, our CAO, to start us off. Mr. Alsop, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thomas Brown of the CAO's office will handle this item.
Good morning, Mr. Brown.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The item before you is a request for legislative correspondence in opposition to Assembly Bill 1250. As amended, AB 1250 will require local agencies to, 1, provide mandatory orientation to contractors similar to orientation offered to county employees. 2, create a new, fully searchable database posted on a county's website that includes names, job titles, and salary of each contracted employee. 3, report the total cost of each contract for all fiscal years, identify the funding source and the total number of quote-unquote full-time equivalent employees being contracted out. 4, perform a full cost-benefit analysis of outsourcing the service and an environmental impact review before entering into or renewing a contract. Proponents claim AB 1250 is about making local government contracting more transparent. In reality, the proposed legislation would insert a series of complex information gathering and reporting requirements that do nothing to improve the basic services local governments provide to their communities. The bill would also significantly increase costs for contracted services and encroach on privacy by posting the names, job titles, and salaries of non-county employees. Local governments exist for a reason: to make decisions that reflect local budgets, local priorities, and meet the needs of our residents. Counties and cities have a long history of addressing service delivery challenges with creativity, self-reliance, and innovation. AB 1250 effectively negates local governing boards' decision-making authority by stymieing flexibility and hindering the efficient delivery of cost-effective services here at home. In addition, privacy concerns with the bill will likely have a chilling effect on contractor participation in local service delivery. Simply put, AB 1250 is bad public policy. The California State Association of Counties, the League of California Cities, and numerous jurisdictions comprise a broad coalition strongly opposed to AB 1250. For these reasons, the County Administrative Office urges your board to adopt a position in opposition to AB 1250 and authorize the chairman to sign correspondence to the appropriate officials. This concludes staff's comments. We're available for any questions your board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, and appreciate you having this off consent. Mr. Alsop, I think it's important for the board and the public to be aware of the types of legislation that are coming down from Sacramento that are, A, going to cost us more if they pass, are not going to provide any better level of service. And while we're struggling in a budget crisis, this is just going to be one more onerous requirement that California is, the state legislature is trying to hoist on us. Who are the proponents of this bill?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I believe that there may be some union affiliation with the that's driving this piece of legislation.
Thank you. Are there any members of the audience that would like to make comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll return to the board.
I'll move the staff's recommendation.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved, all ayes.
That brings us to the conclusion of our agenda for this morning. We do have two items to consider in closed session. First, item 45 under County Administrative Office and item 46 under County Council. And I entertain a motion to adjourn to closed session.
So moved.
We are adjourned.